it confirms what you and I have kind of suspected for a while, which is Drew Aller is, and let me find the technical term here. Drew Aller is but.
Yeah, it's facts.
This is the Rivalry Podcast. Jace, JP, Garbage Free College Football Podcast. It's Michigan and Ohio State, because what else would it be?
Yeah, who cares about
Follow
anything else?
on social at Rival Pod. Breaking the ice with Wheel Route, thanks to the J Company. Fall in love with your home all over again at the JAEcompany.com. The Rivalry Podcast brought to you by Elevated Integrity Construction as well. Let's spin that wheel. Man, a lot of clarity coming on the national stage this week.
Even some teams that remained undefeated that I've got some questions now. I did this one specifically.
If you're not watching on YouTube at Rival Pod, be sure to do that. Will Harbaugh leave this year?
So I asked.
It is October, my guy.
Look. I want to preface this because we talked about it on the way to the Ohio State game, and that's why this made Wheel Route, because I feel like it is deserving of bringing up.
Okay.
So with all the controversy, with all the accusations that have been made against him, do you think that those increase his chances of leaving after this year? Because personally, and this is, I don't like the guy. I never have. I hope that he leaves because I think it would make your program absolutely crumble, and I would love it. If I am him, any coach, I would feel strongly this way towards. It feels like there's some vendetta with the NCAA against him.
Absolutely.
Whether they're true or not, whatever comes out of this investigation, we don't know yet. We'll find it out. But you got to think at some point mentally, he's like, why am I continually dealing with this and having to self-suspend or go through these things when I can just go to the NFL? And so he knows teams are starting to call. He knows his opportunity is there. Next year, your guys' schedule is not favorable. It is going to be tough. You're losing a lot of your core guys. Do you think these accusations, all these things are going to grow on him and increase his chance? Because I wouldn't bring this up had no accusations about stealing signs or anything been brought up. I wouldn't have even said this.
I think those are two different questions. So the Wheel Route question is, will Harbaugh leave this at the end of the year versus does it increase the likelihood, are two different questions. Does it increase the likelihood? I
think they kind of go hand in hand, though.
They go hand in hand, but I think they're different, because does it increase the likelihood? Yeah, of course it does, because he's tired of playing the game.
So what do you think realistically at the end of the year?
No, I think he stays.
You think he stays?
I think ultimately, does it increase the likelihood he goes? Yes. Does he stay? I think so, because I know that the administration is a big fan of him. I know he wants to be at Michigan. He's made it very clear he wants to be there. The relationship with Morad Manuel, the AD, is a little dicey, but even that has taken some really good steps forward where, and again, this was prior to the new sign, steal, whatever, where it looked like a deal was moving forward, and I have no reason to believe that that's not going to continue taking steps forward. I expect Harbaugh to sign an extension. I expect him to continue to be here. I don't think he's worried about losing core guys. I don't think he's worried about a tough schedule next year. I think Michigan's built for it. What could force him out, though, is just the stupidity of the NCAA. And again, at this point, this could change in 2 minutes from now. Okay,
it could change while you literally just said that statement.
It could. What we know right now is, and again, I'll summarize this because I do think this is worth talking about, is what we know right now is nothing.
Yep.
All we know right now, public information, is Michigan has suspended Connor Stalions with Connor Stalions with pay. And we know the NCAA has opening investigation into whether or not sign stealing occurred illegally.
Yeah.
And whether or not in-person scouting happened. No evidence has been presented. And nothing has been made public. That's all we know.
There's been different stories, too, where it's like people thought it was opponents this year. Now it could be that it was opponents in years past, that it's been kind of common knowledge, but it's just now coming to light. You've heard about coaches that have been onto it, that have gone up to him and said, we know what you're doing and it's dirty. And many things. It's what normally happens.
Network of people and yada, yada. Harbaugh has said, I don't know anything about it. I've not directed anybody to do that. We'll cooperate. Yeah. And that's the danger of speculation. And I'll say this too, because this gets me hot under the collar. Shame on The Athletic. Shame on The Athletic for some of the stories that they've run already that are basically these hit jobs based on no public information, no evidence that's been presented. They're writing articles talking about, well, the NCAA has retroactively stripped banners before. Could they preemptively taint Michigan's national title? Shut up.
They're not going to do that.
I'm so, like, garbage free, yeah, but shut up. that is disgusting. If something is proven, if you say, wow, there's absolutely a vast network of people and we have concrete evidence to prove it, here it is, fine. Then we can talk about what's an adequate punishment. But at this point, to write an article like that, shame on you. That's disgusting.
I think it's going to be hard for them to actually come up with any concrete proof whether or not they actually did any of this. So. I just think,
like if you can prove it, then it's going to be concrete proof.
Yeah, it's got to be. There can be no gray area whatsoever.
And Paul Feinbaum's no fan of Jim Harbaugh, but even Feinbaum said, yeah, I don't really know how you're going to be able to prove this.
Yeah, it's going to be near impossible. I hope they do it, though.
Here's the last thing that I'll say on this, and then I'm ready to talk like actual football. The last thing I'll say on this, and this is, again, speculation, but somebody had suggested, what if this is the case? And I could see this being very plausible. What if Connor Stalions is stealing signs, which is not illegal. You can't electronically, you can't record it. You can't electronically communicate, whatever. It was suggested, what if this is the case? And this is pure speculation. What if he does have a handful of people, it could be Michigan alum, could be friends, could be whatever, who are attending games in person, watching the sideline, reporting verbally back to Stalions, who then has a wide variety, who can then compare to in-game film that is legal and be able to figure out what you're doing. That is then, while it's against the spirit of the law, go with me on this, it is not technically against the rule.
Look.
Hold on. I'm not I'm talking to America.
You should be, because it is
Listen
gross.
To this, though. Can we both agree that the rule is stupid to begin with?
Yes and no.
Okay,
in certain areas, I have zero problem if you're going and scouting. Yeah,
high school teams go and in-person scout. So the NCAA enacted this in 1994 as a cost-saving measure. So I think across the board we can say this rule is dumb. But I'm also a rules are the rules guy.
Yeah.
Okay. So now what you've got, if this scenario is true, these random people who are not on staff, blah blah blah, reporting back, you have now technically not broken a rule that we all agree is dumb. You did not break a rule that we all agree is dumb anyway. That's best case scenario for Michigan right now. That's perfectly fine. Do I like it? No, but also the rule's dumb and also you didn't break it.
My only thought is anytime you have to say it's not technically against the rules, you're doing something skeezy, and I hate it. I'm just saying.
High school teams
I have zero problem if you want to send somebody to a game.
And yeah, this is speculation. No one has proven anything.
Yeah, you can't prove anything yet. But I do think there should be nothing against it, but it is the rule, so that's what you got to abide by. If other teams aren't doing it because they're trying to follow stuff,
but if that
trying to find a backwards way into something like that, it's just is skeezy.
I'm not saying that I love it. I'm just saying in that scenario, you have not broken a rule, and the rule is dumb
as
to begin
a fan.
With.
If Ohio State was doing this, I would be very disappointed that they were doing it.
Well, yeah,
so I wouldn't be.
I'm not saying that I love it. I'm just saying that there's that. In that particular scenario, which we're just speculating on, there's nothing that's been broken. Also, and I thought that ESPN actually did a very nice job of this, saying, well, I guess you're going to want to investigate about 90% of teams then.
Yeah. If we're talking about a lot of players coming out saying, like, J.J. Watt was one. I forget who the other one.
RG3 was another one.
Yeah, Robert Griffin III was saying it. It's just a weird thing, but it was worth bringing up at least because we talked about it a little bit on the way to Ohio State.
And to summarize that up, yeah, I think Harbaugh is sick and tired of that. And also, let's talk actual football. Michigan State decided to relay signs from one quarterback to the other on the sideline as a precautionary measure, which looks like a lot of drama to me.
Yeah.
And also, clearly it didn't make a
Well, it's funny that you said, let's talk real football, and then followed it up by saying Michigan State, because what they were playing was not football. I mean,
oh my goodness,
we knew it from the start. I do have to say something to you, because you tweeted something out that was a garbage thing to say, where you called this win against Michigan State a statement win by the Wolverines. It is not. They were trash. They are a trash can of a football team, and you should slaughter them.
It's a statement win, given everything that Michigan has had to deal with.
If that is a statement win, if that is a statement win, all 7 of Ohio State's victories are monstrous, destructive statement victories.
Oh, we'll talk about how demonstrative Ohio State's offense is.
Because there is no way you walk away from that game, and it's what frustrates me about Michigan sometimes. Is
this podcast is spicy and I love it.
Your fan base gets so hyped every time you go out and do exactly what you should do. You should have gone out and beat this Michigan State team the way you did. They are not even close to the talent level you guys are at. It should have been 49-0. It should have been worse. I think I had it at 56-6.
Which by the way, the officials kind of bailed out Michigan State there at the end of the first half.
To me, when you are an elite level program like Michigan, when you are going into a season with the expectation of it's national championship or bust, basically, for you guys. You've been in the playoffs 2 years. This is your 3rd year. McCarthy's under center for another full year starter. You've got Quorum and Edwards saying they're the best running back duo. You have an elite level offense. You have an elite level defense. You go into the season, and the way Michigan State has, this isn't the Michigan State of old that's coming into the big house, or you guys are going away, where it's a hostile environment, and it's 2 ranked teams going head to head. This is Michigan State, who just let go their coach, who they had signed to a 10-year, $95 million contract, if you didn't know, who is on their backup quarterback, who has literally their best offensive player from last year left and is now doing highlight reel plays for Florida State. This is a absolutely decapitated this is not the same team. So coming out and saying that is a statement win it is for the teams you've played previously this year, because those are also dumpster fire teams, but that is not. Come out and beat Penn State handily.
Man.
And that is a statement win.
Reading comprehension is not your strong suit.
Beating Michigan State 49-0 when you are as talented and as loaded of a roster as Michigan has is what you should expect.
A statement win is dominating your rival front to back. It's more about and again, this is where comprehension is important. The statement win is more about the fact of, with everything Michigan has had to deal with you bought a kid a cheeseburger and you stretched for like 15 extra minutes on a Friday. And then some coach is kind of butthurt that you guys really are good at your job, so we're going to open an investigation and paint it like you guys have broken, the Geneva Convention. For Michigan to ignore that noise and dominate front to back, start to finish, that's the statement. It's not about whether or not Michigan State's a good program. I don't
think the players care that much. I think it's a strict coaching thing.
But they hear the noise.
But it's not against them. It's all against your coaches are doing this. This is happening with your...
But it does implicate you, because if teams are saying you're only good because X, Y, Z,
I just don't think...
To go front to back like that, because here's back to the actual football piece of this. There's a big difference. And again, not in a statement win because of the quality of opponent type of way, but for Michigan, there's a big difference between scraping by and dominating. Look at what Oklahoma almost did this weekend. Yeah. Oklahoma played UCF and was fortunate to get a win. Look at what Texas did with Houston. Houston almost had a massive upset. Look at what Vanderbilt almost did to Georgia. Look at what Boston College almost did to Florida State. Frankly, look at what a 3-loss Clemson almost did to Florida State if they had a field goal kicker. So Michigan has not had a game like that. Michigan has come out and they've done what they're supposed to do, but other top teams in the country have not. They've gotten wins. Sure.
I would disagree.
Look. Did you watch Washington?
Yeah, but I think
Washington
you're missing
did
out
not
on a
score
team.
an offensive touchdown. They won 15-6, 15-9, something like that.
Yeah, I think there's a team that you're leaving out on purpose.
No, but they barely squeaked by Arizona State. Michigan has not had a game like that. So a 50-point win, I'll take that any day of the week.
It's not anything
That's a huge difference.
It's not anything to be sad about for any reason.
But if you can't see the difference between that, you're not a serious person. I'm sorry. I'm done dealing with non-serious Buckeye fans in my mentions.
I would strongly disagree.
Bill, President and CEO of the River.
I would so strongly disagree.
My stuff's in a box.
I don't think you can. I just don't think you consider that a statement win. Is it a good win? Absolutely. Anytime you beat your rival by 50, it is a great victory. You're gonna love to see it, especially when you're on their home turf, doing it in front of their fans and making them all cry. That's a lovely thing. But it's just a statement win to me is people are doubting you. You're going into it. To me, it's the Ohio State versus Notre Dame. Nobody expected you to walk out of Notre Dame Stadium with a victory. You
were
win.
A betting favorite.
You go. Nobody
You're
we
a
talk to.
betting favorite.
Every single person on game day, every person you talk to, every single person, yourself included, thinks Ohio State's going to lose. You go into a game against Penn State. Every single person is there calling for the upset. All over Twitter, all over the national media. Everybody's saying Penn State's going to go, and this is their year to go ahead and do it. And Ohio State just dominates them. Absolutely. And so you go into this. Those are statement wins where Kyle McCord goes into a Notre Dame game, doubted at the quarterback position, and leads a final drive like that, and they secure a win in a tough road environment at night where everything was against them. That is a statement win. Beating little brother, the child of like a family of 8, is literally not a statement win. But we'll move on, because I read that this weekend and I thought there's just no way this man walks away believing. I see where your head was at. I still disagree with it, but
JJ McCarthy is also the betting favorite for the Heisman.
It's not going to happen.
Big thanks, by the way, to our friends at Elevated Integrity Construction for sponsoring this podcast. And Aaron Carroll, if you're listening, you might be thinking, maybe I should back out of that.
Yeah,
Is there
please
still
don't.
time? We've already spent it. Sorry. If you have got a building project for your church, your home, your business, these guys know what they're doing. Go with integrity. You don't have to have any sort of guesswork. That's the last thing you need in a project. They won't do it. They have been around for forever. They do great work. Fully endorse them. Go with integrity at elevatedintegrity.com. By the way, want to say a big thanks as well, because our sponsorship is part of it, but also our Patreon subscribers are a huge deal. Want to say thanks to Elizabeth and Bill for jumping on the Patreon train. Thank you so much for doing that. You help us say yes to more opportunities, to creating more content, better content. We've got college football playoffs coming up, presumably for one or both teams. Big Ten championship, presumably for one of these teams. So thank you so much for your support. We've got stickers, we've got t-shirts, we've got exclusive content. You can find out what it looks like to become a subscriber at riverradio.com/rivalry. And also you can find us on social media at RivalPod, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, you name it. We're there.
Yeah, and if you would have been following us, you would have seen me sweating it out a little bit at this past weekend's Ohio State game. So we're going to start talking. We're going to start talking about it a little bit. I was gonna wear my Ohio State stuff, but I decided I'd wear one every day. Every incompletion Drew Aller had, I'd wear one to honor that. And I ran out of Buckeye shirts because the dude was just all over the place. I tweeted this out, and I am very. I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious,
as you should be.
And so
you're a football fan.
I had a lot of tweets when Ohio State went up 20-6 that I held off on tweeting until that clock hit 0, because I knew I'm also a Browns fan. I've been there, and I thought, if I tweet this out and we lose, it is my fault.
But now it's safe.
So it's safe now. It's safe now. There was a tweet that I had sent out that said if Drew Aller's receivers were 15 yards further down the field, his completion percentage would be great. And he was just not there. 18 of 42 for 191. He got a garbage time touchdown that Ohio State gave him like 30 yards on stupid penalties. One roughing the passer that was weak. I don't even remember what the other one was, but
even the touchdown, and I mentioned this to you, and again, this is not the podcast for like X's and O's analytics. If you're looking for that, sorry, you're going to have to find something else. But one of the things that I noticed even on the touchdown, so Aller rolls out and he's got his running back kind of on this old wheel route out.
Yeah, wide open.
And what you do in that scenario, because I watched McCarthy do this last week, maybe a couple weeks ago, is once you get that guy to commit.
Yeah, you're waiting for the linebacker or whoever.
Once you get the defender to commit, you make him defend the run. As soon as he does that, you toss it to the guy who's wide open. So Aller comes out. He gets the defender to finally start taking a step towards him. And instead of flinging it to the wide open running back now, he fires it cross body into the back of the end zone, which happens to hit a receiver for a touchdown. Stuff like that where I go, where's the football IQ here? Like if I can analyze this and go, boy, that doesn't look right.
Yeah.
You done messed up. He did not have a good football game at all. And it confirms what you and I have kind of suspected for a while, which is Drew Aller is, and let me find the technical term here. Drew Aller is butt.
Yeah, it's facts.
He's not, it's just not good. Like, you're throwing the ball 41 times in a one-score game. Off, that's not good.
What a shame for James Franklin to throw him. You have Nick Singleton and you have Katron Allen, who Ohio State relatively shut down. They had like 48 and 26 or something apiece.
That was actually the most impressive piece of the defense for me.
Penn State as a team had under 50 yards rushing. Ohio State's defense was just electric. To me, that was a game I already kind of thought it going after the Notre Dame game, and then how they kind of handled Taulia against Maryland, how they handled Western Kentucky. I thought, that one's a little bit iffy because it's Western Kentucky.
Western Kentucky turns out is very bad.
But I walk into Taulia games and I walk into the Sam Hartman games, and we talked about this, and I want to kind of branch off of this as well. But you look at those games and you expect these are going to be the quarterbacks that are going to pose a threat based off last year when Ohio State's secondary really struggled. Yeah. And you thought these are the quarterbacks that they're going to have elite games. You thought the same thing for Drew Aller going in. Everybody thought this was going to be his first legacy game. This is going to be what gets Penn State over the hump. They finally have a guy that could be an elite level quarterback, and he played awful. And I want to talk about this. We talked about it briefly leaving the game. Kyle McCord in comparison to these, because I have a lot of criticism, and I saw something on Twitter after the game, maybe it was even Sunday, where they were saying there was a Buckeye fan that was going off saying, I don't understand the McCord hate. He's led this team to 7-0. And I don't disagree, but I also disagree because the dude has come
like that, man. Well, yes, but also no.
But also, have you considered this? And there's some other stats that I think are a little bit interesting, but you go into these big games, you go into Notre Dame, and the biggest talking point is you have this wide gap when it comes to Sam Hartman and Kyle McCord.
Yeah.
Kyle McCord wins that matchup to me. You go into Maryland, another tough team where people thought this is a potential upset. Taulia is the better quarterback. I even said it on the podcast that he's the second best quarterback in the Big Ten. You go into that game, everybody's expecting Taulia to pose a threat. He has his worst game of the season. 2 interceptions. I don't think he even broke 200 yards either.
Yeah, I don't think so.
If so, he barely did. But I think he even had like 191. Then you go into this game, and I think McCord outplayed him then. Then you go into this game, and it's Drew Aller is what's going to take Penn State over the hump. He is the clear difference maker. The gap between them is just huge. Kyle McCord outplayed him. Now, going to Kyle McCord, he still played an okay game. There are some games that I walk away, and statistically, he looks fine. And this was a game, I think what frustrates me the most, and this is my big thing with Kyle McCord, it's not that he makes bad plays, although there were some ugly ones this game. Yeah. The one where he rolled out and tried to force something, threw the ball, and it was a fumble, and then they returned it for a touchdown, and they got lucky that it was like a defensive illegal contact.
It was a DPI? It was a holding call that didn't need to happen.
It didn't need to happen. A very costly mistake by Penn State because it cost them 6.
Huge.
And changed the momentum.
That's a game-changing.
Yeah, momentum shifter for sure. So he got bailed out on that. That would have been what we had talked about in the past of he's not turned the ball over. He's not made bad mistakes. He has had a habit of doing that, and it just hasn't. The other team hasn't been able to capitalize on it.
It hasn't caught up to him yet.
That was one where I thought it was finally going to happen, and it didn't. He has boneheaded plays like that. Yeah. He also has plays that we saw this past week where, sure, you look at the final score and it was 20-12. The garbage time touchdown, whatever, it was like 20-6. Ohio State's defense absolutely shut Penn State down. But you look at that, and what's frustrating is the amount of points you leave on the board. Yes. There were several plays in that game. One, I believe, to Julian Fleming, and I believe the other was Marvin. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but there were at least 2 plays where he has a wide open receiver. And there were numerous plays that weren't big chunk plays, but they were plays that would have given Ohio State a first down that he just overshot. It was over their head. It was a little bit in front, maybe a little bit behind. His placement sometimes just isn't there, and it's costing them first down opportunities. In this game alone, there were at least 2 or 3 plays that should have been touchdowns. This should have been an absolute blowout.
I don't know if I'd say an absolute blowout, but I agree with you.
I think if they get those, it's 30-something to 12.
Especially look at, you had one drive that ended up with a field goal. You had another drive that was a missed field goal. And then you had the ball,
at the one or two
6-inch line, had 2 shots at it and couldn't do it.
Well, and so what's weird about that is you go in, and at the time you're only up 10-6. So you go up, you get to the 1-yard line, you run it with Mayan Williams. He gets like a 2-yard loss. So then you're like, they're for sure going to kick it. You're going to go up by 7.
Absolutely.
And make it comfortable. Ryan Day chooses to go for it, which we've talked about, and I've criticized Ryan Day in the past for this because I think he's what cost us the Georgia game. I would stand on that hill. I would die on that hill every single day of the week. there were decisions in that game that he lost for us. This was one where when he made that call, I thought, this is going to come back to haunt us. And thankfully it didn't. But how you don't kick the field goal in
a low scoring game, you've got to be able, and I'm going to sound like a Michigan guy here, but I think I'm saying the same thing you are. Ryan Day gets out, and I'm not saying he did necessarily in this game, but in that moment.
Yeah.
And actually, I will go ahead and say he did not get out coached in this game because James Franklin is a terrible football coach. But Ryan Day he gets into that mindset, and I think for me personally, I think it goes back to the toughness thing. It goes back to the where's Lou Holtz right now. It
and
goes
I don't
back to
mind.
We're tough. It's the simple thing to do here in a low scoring 10-6 game is kick a field goal and go up by a touchdown.
Yes.
But and again, I can't prove it. It's like a sign stealing allegation, but I can't prove it. But in my mind, it's no, we're tough and we're going to punch it in. And what you end up doing is but the play call doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's like calling a jet sweep on 4th and 1 against Notre Dame. Did it come back to bite you? No, but boy, was it close.
But I also think, I
just don't get that mentality.
Here's my issue with it is you're a genius if it works, you're stupid if it doesn't.
Sure.
And my issue with it is,
but it doesn't work.
You shouldn't have done it because of the personnel that you had available to you that day. Mayan Williams has barely seen the field all season long. And you're trusting essentially who I'm going to call your third string running back at the time. Sure. You're going to trust him. Now, I am a firm believer, and you are Ohio State, and I would say the same for Michigan. Yeah. If you are an elite level program and you're at the 1 yard line, it should be a touchdown every single time. Yep. 10 out of 10. It's inexcusable to not. So for Ohio State, when you get to the 1 yard line, I'm expecting you to go for it twice. But I'm expecting if you don't get it on third down, you're running the same thing because your mentality is we're going to get it. Yeah. The second he went back for 2, that's when I go, 3 yards is different than having to punch it in a couple inches because then I can do a tush push. I can do whatever to get Kyle McCord. And I can do anything like that.
I get that Devin Brown probably it's a different play call with Devin Brown in there. You got to adjust, man. Yeah. You are a well-paid football coach.
You have Marvin Harrison Jr.
When you're born on third base, though, there's a learning curve. And you got to pick it up.
That's my issue. So I think you walk away from that and you go, what's frustrating about this Ohio State offense isn't Kyle McCord. It starts with him, but it's the fact of you have so many chances. I think it's built up frustration from Travion Henderson being unavailable for this was his 3rd game now? Because he didn't play Maryland.
And the whole didn't
play Purdue, didn't play this.
Travion, he could have gone, but we held him out. I don't buy that.
Yeah.
I get that he may have been a game time decision. I get that Egbuka was a game time decision. And I understand because that's a very Harbaugh type thing where it's I'm going to tell you nothing.
Yeah, and that's fine.
But the whole he could have. We hope that. Blah blah. I don't. If I'm a Buckeye fan, I don't buy any of that. I have no idea who's playing against Wisconsin.
And I think what's frustrating about that is Chip Trainum has been fine. He's been serviceable. Mayan Williams hasn't touched the field at all. Last year, he was an 800-yard back. So you look at that and you go, okay, he's serviceable. But the thing that's frustrating is they're trying to run Mayan Williams outside all the time when he's a vertical runner. Right. But then you have a guy like Dallin Hayden who last week against Purdue has a great game. He's phenomenal. Goes in and he sees nothing. Yeah. And it's like, if you know that you're going to be running to the outside, switch up your personnel to favor that. Not run Mayan Williams on these sweeps or these stretch plays where he's getting taken down in the backfield, fighting to get back to the line of scrimmage. And it just didn't make sense.
For me as a Michigan man, because again, we're a month out from the game, which feels like the season has flown by, but we're a month out. The fact that Ohio State is still not able to run the ball successfully is from the Michigan side, is a very good sign.
And I think
because even in this game here, and again, Penn State's got a good defense, 2.5 yards a carry.
Yeah.
That's just not going to get it done.
And before we move on to the Wisconsin, because I think we should just get to that. But
Go ahead. I've got another comment to make here before we get there.
To sum it all up, I think what frustrates, at least me personally, I'll speak to myself as a Buckeye fan. What frustrates me about this offense is I feel like there are so many opportunities. I feel like our offense is just as explosive as last year. It could be. And we're just missing it by a hair. It's just McCord being he's no CJ. He never will be. And that's fine. And I think people need to get that through him. I think people need to get that through their head. I did think it was interesting. I decided to look this up last night. Through the first 7 games last year versus this year, just to compare the two. And I didn't end up figuring out touchdowns. I did it a couple weeks ago, I think before Maryland. And by this point, CJ already had over 20 touchdowns. It was like he had like 25 touchdowns or something. Like that number is vastly different, and that's obviously going to be the case. After 7 games last year, CJ only had a little over 2,000 yards. Right now, McCord is at like 1,900 something. There's not a huge gap. He's throwing the ball effectively, and he's played 2 top 10 teams at the time, one on the road. I would say Penn State had a better defense than Notre Dame, and he has played.
I'd agree with that.
He has played well. He hasn't had a CJ game where you walk away and go, "That guy is an absolute stud." But moving forward, I feel very comfortable with McCord at quarterback. I would even say after these past couple of tests, after Notre Dame and after Penn State, I'm putting him as the second best quarterback in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And here's what gets me is the big question coming out of that game as we kind of move towards Wisconsin here. The big question coming out of that game was, are these good defenses or bad offenses? And I think the answer is yes. Like I think, and our buddy Dylan Davis with Delaware Gazette said, the defense is going to give you a chance to win any game. Your defense is going to give you a chance to win any game. I think that's fair. Mm-hmm. The offense is real ugly.
It hurts when it hurts when you go into it and you don't have Henderson. You don't know what I don't know what this carousel of running backs is where you're going train them, you're going Mayan.
Early in the year though, man, like you scored, and again, Notre Dame and Penn State, like you can say, well, that's good competition. You scored 20 against Penn State. That's not up to Ohio State typical offensive explosiveness. 17 against Notre Dame, took every last second to do it. But then even earlier in the year, 23 against Indiana, 35 against an FCS school. Like that to me is concerning when you look at teams. And that kind of goes back to the Michigan side where I go, okay, well, you scored 23 on Indiana. Michigan scored 52.
Yeah,
you scored
first game of the year.
But you scored 35 on an FCS school. Michigan just dropped 50 on a divisional opponent. So like that's where it's like.
But then we dropped 41 against Purdue.
Okay, cool. But
a divisional opponent.
But that's
scored
not
8 points less than you guys against Michigan State.
That's not been consistent though. You're not. Ohio State is not going to be a team that's going to be able to win shootouts this year. They're not going to win shootouts.
Not unless things get cleaned up. To me, the difference between them taking that next step is McCord has to be able to be just a tad. He's not Drew Aller overthrowing by 10 yards.
No, but
it is just a little bit
inconsistent. And this goes back to the Jekyll and Hyde thing I've said before. There are moments where he looks really good, and then there are moments you're going, "What in the world is that?" That will not win you championships.
Yeah, I think
it's too inconsistent.
The biggest takeaway, before
it's just way inconsistent.
The biggest takeaway before we go to Wisconsin is I think McCord. It's all a mental thing for him right now. I think the skill set is there, but there were times even this past game against Penn State where he was trying to make too much out of stuff. And there's got to be a teachable moment where you take him aside and go, on that play where he fumbled and Penn State returned it.
Take the sack,
cover it up, secure the ball, and go.
Yep.
There's no need to force anything. We have the playmakers to get those chunk yardage. We have Marvin Harrison Jr., who erupted again for 11 yards, 165 and a touchdown. I mean, you have the playmakers. So moving into Wisconsin this week.
Yeah, here's the good news for all that.
Yeah.
Is Wisconsin is up next.
Yes, and I do think going into Wisconsin, this is something that I feel like, and I was listening to WNCI this morning, and they were talking about this. Normally they go through and they prep like what their thoughts are for this week, and they were just shaking in their boots, having to go play Wisconsin. And to me, it is they are your I don't really watch the game,
Correct.
but I'm a Buckeye fan because
the people that are in my mentions going, look at McCord for Heisman. I go, you did not watch the game, did you?
It's the people like that where this is not the Wisconsin of old.
No.
Where you go in, and I will still say Camp Randall is a tough place to play. I think that
Camp
crowd
Randall
at a night
is always
game
going to be tough.
At night, I think they're going to be ready to go. But let's be real. Wisconsin's on their backup.
Yep.
Tanner Mordecai's out. The only person they really have is Braylon Allen.
Yeah.
He's got 700 yards on the year. I will say that is the key. Going up to this game, and it's the same thing I said against Penn State, you've got to be able to stop the run. And having to go up against Katron Allen and Nick Singleton had me nervous.
Yeah.
It's the same reason I would say against Michigan, anything like that. It was what I had against Notre Dame is if they get their running back going, it could cause some problems. Ohio State, after this Penn State game, proved to me that their defense is elite enough. Braylon Allen being the only person I have to focus on stopping if I'm Jim Knowles, I am not remotely worried about that.
No.
I am the only thing I want to see from this game, and then I'll let you share your thoughts on it. I want to see a healthy Buckeye team. I need to see Travion Henderson. I know after this game, we've got Rutgers coming up, but he's got to get himself warmed up and back into a rhythm. The dude can't take 4 or 5 weeks out and expect to come back and play Michigan. You've got to have him ready to go. I want to see Ibuka come back, even if he's on limited count. I want to see Denzel Burke back, even though I don't think it'll be necessary. I just want all of our key guys, because you go into this you go looking back at the Penn State game and you go, man, 3 of our key guys are out. One of our best defensive players.
You want guys to be in rhythm because we just talked about we're a month out
from Michigan. The end of the season, you just can't afford to have rust. So I'd like to see Henderson, even if they're on a snap count. I'd love to see Henderson and Ibuka and Denzel Burke get out there. This is a game Ohio State should walk away, much like last year, in dominating fashion. Yep. I've got my final score 34-13.
Yeah, we're real close on that. This is not a great Wisconsin team. They had to mount a fourth quarter comeback to beat Illinois. They got beat 15-6 by Iowa for context.
Yeah, gross.
I don't know how to analyze that.
They barely beat Rutgers. They got a pick 6 to beat that, but it was a much closer. I think the final was 24-13.
I will say this. I think Luke Fickell will use Braylon Allen a lot better than Franklin used his running back in this game. I don't know how you have Singleton and Allen and throw the ball 40 plus times.
That's what I'm saying. Especially when the running game was kind of going off at the beginning.
I have no idea what James Franklin's doing because I think Ohio State's defense is good. I was impressed that they stopped the run. I'm not with you that I'm not willing to call them elite because I watched Drew Aller play and I think Drew Aller beat himself, but I do think that they're a good
I think the defense is still elite.
I don't think the defense is elite. I think they're very good though. I'm not ready to put them in the elite category, but they're very good. Regardless, when you know, and you nailed it, when you know Braylon Allen is the game plan, is the game plan. I don't see Wisconsin having enough on either side of the ball to make this terribly competitive. The spread, the initial spread was 14. Right? I assume that will move in Ohio State's favor. 35-10.
Yeah, it was 14.5 this morning.
35-10 Ohio State. I don't see Ohio State, again, for the reasons I've already talked about, I don't see them putting up a ton of points.
Yeah.
But I also don't see Wisconsin with anything to break this defense.
I could see it being like a 17-3 halftime or something, and you being like, I don't know what I'm watching.
It's going to be boring football. I don't think it's going to be
I would love that after.
I don't think it's going to be a blowout per se, but the game also will not be close. It will not feel
34-13 to me is.
It's not a blowout, but also it's very
comfortable victory,
and it's going to be boring. Absolutely boring.
Can't wait.
Again, you can give your thoughts, predictions at Rival Pod. Let's finish this out with Stupid Genius. Our Stupid Genius upset picks of the week. The scoreboard right now, I believe I am up 47.5-0. Something like that.
I stopped counting.
I have not. You get 5 points for picking the upset correctly, plus whatever the spread was they overcame. Neither of us got it right this past weekend.
I was close.
Tennessee looked like they were going to beat Bama for a little bit and then fell apart. I'll let you go first. Who do you have this week?
You're not going to like it. You're not going to like it. I forget what the spread is because I tried to print out my paper with my notes and it was not on there. I'm going Colorado over number 23 UCLA.
Would you stop?
Absolutely not.
What's the spread?
I don't have it in front of me. I feel like it was 17, maybe.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I feel like it was 17. It doesn't matter.
UCLA is going to roll. Give me Kansas plus 10 against Oklahoma.
No way.
Rock chalk, baby.
No, and you made fun of mine.
Oklahoma almost got beat by Central Florida last week. They almost got beat by Central Florida at home. They've got to go to KU. They've got to go to KU. Kansas was ranked earlier this year.
It's not a tough place to play.
Have you ever? Oh, wait, is this basketball or not?
It's not. Change your vote.
I've made a grave mistake.
Yeah, absolutely.
Grave mistake.
Too late.
Final thing here. Give me your top 4 and your first 2 out as we wrap up.
All right.
Because next week is the first release of the college football playoff rankings on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
So this is the last chance to get this in before next week comes.
Before we close this out, I would like to say just a tiny snippet.
What else could you possibly say?
How about Rutgers being bowl eligible? Can we just take 5 seconds?
We started
We're
chopping a little bit.
The last thing I'll say, did I look at the AP poll and they were receiving votes? Rank them, you cowards. What are you doing? Go Knights, baby. Greg Schiano dancing.
Is Rutgers Michigan's best win?
It absolutely is.
At 6-2.
Is
See, what's nice is that Michigan's schedule is Michigan's schedule, but also I could say, man, Michigan beat a bowl eligible team by like 40 points.
Is Michigan State bowl eligible?
They are not.
Oh,
but see, you go, Michigan beat a 6-2 team by like 30, 40 points. You go, oh my gosh, that's really good. Who was it? It doesn't matter.
Don't you shame my Scarlet Knights. Here's my top 4 and my first 2
also,
out.
birds up. Congrats to our boys at UTSA beating up on FAU. Well done.
Here are my college football playoff top 4.
Okay.
Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State, Georgia. I'm putting Georgia at 4. I think you guys are going to have to play them. Then I think it'll be Ohio State and Florida State. I think the Brock Bowers loss is going to be huge.
I think it is too.
So I just don't trust them. I don't know if I see them losing. It's just tough for me to think that they are going to be a tougher team to play than Michigan or Ohio State.
It's very feasible though that they win out and then lose to Alabama in the SEC title game.
I think
get in.
It's because I think if they lose without Bowers, but Bowers is eligible to come back and he's able to return for the playoffs, they are a better team than Alabama, even if they would lose to them. So I think the committee would take that into effect. So those are my final 4. My first 2 out, I'll go Washington, and then I don't have faith in Oklahoma.
But you got to put them there.
I have to because they're undefeated. So Washington and Oklahoma.
It's the same teams, just switched around.
Yeah, that was in no particular order.
I have Michigan number 1 because I do strongly believe that they are a better team than Georgia right now. And again, does Brock Bowers affect that? I would say it even with Bowers, but I think what I've seen with let's kind of get through South Carolina, who's got 2 wins. Let's kind of get through Vanderbilt. Michigan's number 1.
Yeah.
Ohio State, I think, is number 2 because they've got it on the resume. Whether or not I think they're elite, whatever.
They have the best resume so far in the NCAA.
I do agree. But number 2. Georgia, I'll keep it 3 because they haven't lost. Washington is at 4. Scraping past Arizona State. You're still top 4 for the win over Oregon, but I'm watching you. I'm watching you.
Penix took himself out of the Heisman race for me.
Well, again, I don't know if you've heard, but McCarthy's now the betting favorite. Oklahoma and Florida State are the first 2 out. Florida State, I don't know how they keep getting away with it. They keep getting away with it.
What stinking happens is my guy Leonard from Duke goes out at the worst possible second. It's like, hey, Duke is ready to go. They're ready. It was the same thing that happened versus USC or against Notre Dame. Sorry. And they go into it and David Leonard is sitting there and he's like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. Then he gets hurt and he's out and they put it back up in and then they lose the game. This game happens. Duke is playing well the whole game. They have a chance. He goes out and they put a backup in who's throwing it to Florida State. And I'm like, Duke, you would be so good if Leonard could stay on the field in the crucial moments of the fourth quarter. This could happen. I could have some points of stupid genius.
Speaking of teams that would be so good if they weren't bad, fight on, losers. Fight on, losers. CK, also Heisman candidate, Sia Kayla Williams. Thanks so much for playing.
Yikes.
Thanks so much for playing. Good luck to you the rest of the way, I guess.
Yeah, yikes.
Talk to your kids about Liberty Bowl bound USC.
I saw a prediction they were going to play my Scarlet Knights in some random bowl game. Can't wait.
USC, Rutgers, Quick Lane Bowl in Detroit. We're going.
Oh, buy my tickets right now.
Thanks so much for subscribing.
The Rivalry is a production of River Radio Ministries. Want live updates from the show? Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at RivalPod. Visit our Patreon and consider becoming a patron for exclusive bonus content, merch, and more. And be sure to follow us wherever you're listening now for new episodes every Tuesday. And if you like what you're hearing, tell a friend so they can listen too.